Welcome back to Flint Transport. So today we're going to talk about that new Peterbilt 589, but first I want to show you around here a little bit and show you what's going on in upstate New York. Look at the sky. I guess it's all these wildfires from Quebec. There's the sun. It's supposed to be a nice sunny day today, but instead we're getting the smoke. What's pretty crazy too, by the way, this is a new truck we got on for one of our sales guys, but I don't know if you can see it, but there's a fine layer of ash on the hood. So this truck got washed and waxed yesterday, and I brought it back in. It sat overnight, and just from overnight you can see all the ash laying on top of that hood. And you go outside and you think, you're not really breathing anything in, but you know what, I think we're breathing in more than what we realize. There you can actually see the ash pretty good. That's what's landing on the truck, and it's like almost ruining the paint. It's ridiculous. There is an air quality alert out, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully in the next day or two, things clear up. So I gotta walk up and grab a truck, bring it out, and they're gonna be swapping out GPS units. And then we're gonna talk about the 589. All right, guys, so here we go. My thoughts on the 589. I'm actually in our Peterbilt dump truck because this is the only Peterbilt dash, good old dash. So that's part of what I want to talk about in this video. There is some in the shop, but there's guys are working in there and it gets noisy and on and on. But we all know the 589, brand new truck that Peterbilt just came out with to replace the 389. You know, and I was thinking maybe I should have done a video back when the 990 came out, and I might have touched on a little bit in comparing it to the W900. You know, it's crazy how times change. And looking back, you know, from the 359 to the 379 to the 389, you know, every time there's a change, you know, I feel like in semi-trucks anyway, every time there's a change in semi-trucks, everybody is like, you know, down and out, this is going to be the worst thing. And then when we have it, it actually turns out to be not a bad truck. And then you look in pickup trucks, and it seems like in pickup trucks, everybody's always waiting for that latest thing. But in semi-trucks, I don't know what it is. Maybe truck drivers are old school and they like to just have their same old stuff. At least for me, like I'd be fine if the W900, you know, just make a few changes, let it live on. The 589, you know, they could have done a little better job, you know, on that. The 389 was a fine truck. Just let it live on, you know. Even if they'd limit it to you know, fewer amount of trucks per year. Some of those things you look at, it's kind of frustrating. You know, why do you make changes? But things change, times change, people change, and the new 589, I guess, is going to replace the 389. The 990 replaces the W900, and I think the W900, this is the last year for the W900. So I've been, you know, over the last months, maybe, you know, I've been getting word of these changes, and randomly here and there, if I catch up with a, you know, at a show where there is a Peterbilt or a Kenworth rep, I always pop the question, like, what's happened to it? Why are you making these changes and things like that? And I gleaned some information, you know, and these things, and I'll start out saying, like, these things are my own assumptions or my own ideas and my opinions, but you know, I look at the big picture, you know, and sometimes you just gotta step back, look at the big picture and see what is really going on, you know. And that's kind of my thing today, and what I feel is really going on. So I know a big thing, and it's what Kenworth and what Peterbilt, what PACCAR says, is the EPA is making us change our trucks. The EPA, the EPA, the EPA. Understand. And I know that does go a long way. And For example, just in different components that they use, there supposedly is a more eco-friendly way to make certain parts and things like that. So I think they look at a whole truck and they say, hey, there's certain things that you could produce or use on the truck that would be supposedly greener, right? And the 580 or the 389 had a lot of, say, of those parts, you know, and same way with the W900. And also there was some, you know, emission standards, emission requirements that the W900 and the 389 did not meet, such as, you know, aerodynamics, which we'll get into that. The other one is there's engine and transmission options that, and also axle ratios, I think, or axles that you can now get in the 589 or will be available in the 589 and in the 990 that were not available in the 389 and the W900. And I know I'm mentioning Kenworth a lot here too, so it's kind of about both the trucks. This video is like, it's off the top of my head, so I'm kind of bouncing, you know, around on different things. Looking at the dash, you know, I'm just gonna start right in here. Look at the dash. So this is the more classic dash. I know this is a 567 or whatever Peterbilt dump truck, but it's pretty much the same dash that was in the 389, right? So I just want to say something, Peterbilt. You know, this is a solid dash right here. Okay. Now I want to show you something over here. This is a 2005 Sterling. 2005. Okay. Your new 589 dash. I'd clean this sucker up. It's plastic. It's plastic. Okay. You guys want a plastic dash? I know it's greener, but it's still plastic. Okay. Sterling had these plastic dashes out way long time before you guys had your plastic dashes out, I guess. So why are you putting a plastic dash in a classic truck? It's really sad. And you hear the vibrating noises in these plastic dashes a lot more. And they're plastic, you know, it's stuff breaks. You let it sit in the sun, it cracks, it comes apart. It is what it is. I think Peterbilt a little late to the game on their plastic dashes. Now I'm going to sit in this Kenworth a little bit. We're going to talk about 990. Again, you know, you look at this dash. I mean, I can replace this panel. I can replace this panel. I can replace certain gauges very easily. There's just so many parts on here that you can simply easily replace. It's frustrating. It truly is frustrating. Let's talk a little bit about hoods. The hood on the 990 is a bigger hood than the W900. And I think the hood on the Peterbilt 389 and the 589 actually has, it might be a bit of a wider hood or a bigger hood. I'm not sure, but it's very close or similar. And it's funny because these guys are saying, oh, the EPA, we're going to make them more aerodynamic and blah, blah, blah. You want to talk about a brick in the wind? Let's not go there. You know, really? The EPA is making you do more aerodynamic what? Like changing out the windshield? Make it a one-piece windshield, a wider cab? Then the breathers. I don't even want to talk about 990 breathers. You know, but couldn't you make it at least a little more similar to the 389 where you do have somewhat breathers? And then you look at the 389 breathers and you're like, just put a regular breather on there. Is things that can be transferred from one truck to another. You hit a breather, you know, now we're looking at all new part numbers, all new this, all new that. But again, I do feel a little bad talking about, because I haven't driven the 589. You know what, I sat in a 990, but I was not impressed. And here's what it really comes down to. Well, let me back up. I do want to drive the 589. I kind of think I know already. I'm kind of came to a conclusion of what it is. It's definitely a wider cab, and it has some features that are nice. But what happened to the old school truck drivers? You know, a classic dash like this, you know, you're in a truck 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. You can't get along with that view right there. I don't know. And I don't want to be negative. Like, I know things are going to change, and we can't we can't go back in time, but we can keep the old classics running. And I think that a lot of guys are going to keep running these older trucks. As a fleet owner, it's frustrating that the only thing we get to change into is to change into something that is cheaper. It's not going to hold in resale value. It's something that you're going to have more issues with, more problems with. Am I going to retain drivers better? Maybe, but we're doing good in that area. I feel we're doing good in that area. I don't know. It's frustrating to me though. But that side of it's frustrating. But here's something where Peterbilt and Kenworth better listen up, because fleet owners are I think are gonna come to a point and realize this right here. And this is what's going to make or break them. As of now, the current 389 and the current 389 and the W900 are two trucks that no other manufacturer can compete with. Okay, no other Western Star you're not going to compete with those two classic trucks. But Kenworth or Western Star, Freightliner, Mack, Autocar, I don't know, you name it. When they see the 589, when they see the 990, they're like, yes, because it's a plastic truck, it's a plastic dash, it's plastic components, and guess what? Here's what it comes down to. When I start to go looking for a new truck, and I hop in a 990, for example. I'm probably more of a Kenworth fan. And I hop in a 990. How does it compare to a Western Star? It's the same. It's a plastic dash. There's plastic components. Now I'm competing. Now you're competing with Western Star. Now you're competing with Freightliner. Why should I spend $50,000 more for a Kenworth than a Western Star when they're both going to lose in resale value, when they're both going to have their plastic dash issues, and they're both not going to last that long? So why should I spend extra money for a Kenworth or a Peterbilt? And same way goes with the 389 or the 589. Why should I spend extra on the 589? Now the 589, they did a much better job of making it look closer to the 389, but still, it's so close. Like, the only difference is, the biggest difference is the cab. And it's basically, they did the wide cab. They did a full windshield. They're going to make money. They're savvy. They're going to produce windshields for, now they just have one windshield for all their trucks, or most of their trucks. And there's other components too that I'm sure that are shared between all their different trucks, all their different lineups. So what's gonna keep me from not buying a 589 and switching over to a Kenworth or to a Freightliner or a Western Star or something else? The 589, again, like I said, it does look a little bit better than the 990. They did a better job on the 589 than the 990. And if I go back to buying new trucks, I'm gonna have definitely a good look at the 589. But the price better be in line, is what I'll say. The price better be in line, because the price ain't in line. Why should I pay more for a truck like that? That's where I'm struggling. So maybe you guys can help me. Maybe you guys can help me with that. Let me know what your thoughts are, what I should do. Obviously, there's many different things that I look into it. There's suspension and things like that. I feel that PACCAR has above the competition, but there's a price for everything. And if I'm buying trucks and flipping them, which is what a lot of guys do, and if I buy new trucks, I'm going to run them 5 years, 400,000 miles, or 5 years, 500,000 miles, or whatever, till I run out of warranty or run close to warranty. And what you got to look at is what's that number I'm going to get for that truck at 400,000 miles or at 500,000 miles when I go to trade it off or when I go to sell it? Is that 990 going to retain its value, or is that 589 going to retain the value compared to a Freightliner Classic, or actually I think the Classic's done, but compared to a Western Star or a Freightliner, how's it going to hold up in value? And that number is what you take a look at. So the 900s 389s hold their value very well. And you just go on truck paper and start comparing the 389. Well, you can't to the 589 yet, but you can compare the 900 to the 990, or the T800 to the T880. And actually, in a minute, I'll go do that. But it's kind of crazy what's going on. Is it all bad? It's not all bad. And again, like I said, I know times change. And again, guys, these are my thoughts, ideas, opinions. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion of the truck. But when you're coming from W900s and you're coming from 389s, trucks that you own, that you know are a solid truck, and maybe that's what it is like whenever you have something that is working really well, right? When somebody wants you to change, you have to look at what are they making better? Why should I change? What are they doing to make me change to something else? They got to be offering me something better. There's got to be a reason behind it. And so if I'm looking at the 589 and I'm saying, why should I change to the 589? What did they do better? What did they change to that truck that is better than the 389? That's what you got to look at. One-piece windshields, I don't like. They crack. Up here we have heat, cold. They crack. They have problems, and then whereas the two-piece, you can pop one out, pop another one in, and you're good to go. The dash, it's plastic dash. The cab is wider, maybe a little more creature comfort, but I don't have drivers complaining because they don't have enough room to get into their bunk. Or this cab is not wide. They don't come in and say that. They like the truck they run. Maybe I have different drivers. I don't know. I'm trying to think what else is changed on the new trucks. But there's obviously, I'm sure there's going to be forward collision, some of that stuff that they're going to be putting on, the plastics underneath. But, as an owner of 389s, looking at why should I go to the 589, and maybe a Peterbilt salesman could help me with that better, or try to convince me why I should have a 589 instead of a 389. Let's go check out some of the prices, and this is going to flip to, because there's no 389s to compare to 589s. But I'm eager to see what the price is, and maybe you guys got prices, or those of you that are getting prices on the 589, let me know where the prices are for say a nicely decked out 589. I'd love to know how that compares to a nicely similarly decked out 389. But let's check out the W990 compared to the W900. So we'll look at those trucks here. All right, guys, I'm here checking out some trucks on truck paper, and I just went 2021 over here. There's not a lot of trucks for sale, so I went with 2021. Actually, there's Kenworth. Let's do this. Model is 990, and the year is 21. Then I got another tab flipped open of W900s. So these are all emission engine trucks, and there's a bunch of different ones for sale. There's really not a lot of inventory out there, though. That's what's kind of crazy. Like 2021, there's only 16. That is not that many. I think in time you'll see more W990s. There's only 5 2021s. So I think in time you'll see a lot more available, especially once we pass that 4 or 5 year mark. So this gives you an idea. But there was a couple trucks. Like here's 2 trucks that are pretty similar. Like these are the cheapest trucks, right around 400,000 miles, 129,000. And this is another one down in Texas, 129, 400,000 miles. Still got warranty left. Here's one for 149, but it's got less miles on it. And then we flip over to the W900s, and here's a blue one. I'd say similar spec, 269,000. That one's call for price. But here's one, factory warranty, 300,000 miles at 21. Similar spec. It's got an air ride front axle, 189. Here is a 21, 169, 325,000 miles. Here is one with 200,000 miles for 149. So, and this one has warranty, but it's an ultra shift transmission. I think that's what's hindering the value of that truck. So going back to these trucks, both of these trucks here were manual, 13-speed manual transmission. So they're spec'd out really nice. So yeah, I mean, you're what, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. It varies in price for these trucks. But either way, you know, I think the value of these W900s, I think they're gonna maybe not necessarily increase in value, but they're gonna hold their resale value a lot better than the 990 trucks. You know, and you look at these trucks aerodynamics on between the 990 and the 900, like my 2 cents, is there's so little difference. If anything, I'd say the drag on the visor, like if you look at the visor, I don't know if that attaches, but the way that attaches, I don't know, it seemed like it would almost have more of a drag. But my 2 cents is very little. But yeah, you can add skirting, you can do all kinds of things with these newer trucks that, you know, supposedly is what the EPA is after. And just a side note, right? So I go into 389 and then 589. There's no 589s. So it's not there. 587, 579, 560, but no 589s. All right, guys, so back out to these trucks. And you know what's crazy is everything is like kind of yellow. I look through the camera, the lens. It's just like crazy, these wildfires that are going on. So back into 144, and we'll finish this video. I would say here is my warning to Kenworth and to Peterbilt, that coming from some idiot in the Northeast, they could be like, who cares what he says? But either way, it's still something that I really feel they need to watch out. I'll say they did a better than I expected job on the 589 by holding the long hood and holding the breathers. So great job, Peterbilt, for that. But some of those other things that they did in the interior, it's like on the 990, they just really messed up. And some of those things are, it's a very fine line of where people are going to decide, you know what, a Kenworth's not worth it. It's not the truck it used to be. You know, so I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's not the truck that it used to be. It's a lot more comparable to these other trucks with plastic dashes like this 2005 Sterling sitting right here. So that's the concern for you guys at Peterbilt and Kenworth if you stoop low enough to ever watch this video. So let me know your comments and thoughts on the new 589 and the 990, while we're kind of touched on that a little bit too. But I will say, Peterbilt, if you think about it, Peterbilt could have done a lot worse job, or like they could have really messed it up like they did the 990. Thankfully, it didn't look terrible, but they could have somehow kept that split windshield, yet keep the narrow cab. That would have been, even with the big wide cab, have the wide cab and the split windshield, I think would be really cool. Get rid of the plastic dash, just a couple things, but we'll survive. Times are changing. Guys, I really wish that I could have the 589 and the 990 sitting side by side along with a 900L and a 389. You know, to have all four of those trucks and just, you know, kind of walk through them and see all the different changes. Maybe someday. For now, my opinion will have to do. I just wanted to follow up again on this video, and I know it seems like, or maybe it sounded a little bit too much like I am really against Kenworth and Peterbilt. It's not. That's not what I'm trying to portray. It's not what I'm trying to bring across. I don't want to bring across negativity. That's not what I'm about. Unfortunately, we can't change the up and coming times or whatever, but it was just, maybe I just had to get it all out of my, system. Maybe it was a few frustrations in there. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to make sure that I'm not out here spreading negativity. There's definitely changes that they did that I'm disappointed with, you know, and you really look at some of the changes that they did and you wonder, like, why did you make such subtle changes? You know, they're like the breather. Such a little change. Why? Why not just leave it? And you know, the windshield is a bigger change, but it is what it is. There you go, guys. I do like Kenworth and Peterbilt. I just don't like the direction that they're going in with making their trucks cheaper. That's probably my biggest frustration. So let me know what you guys think. I'm eager to hear what you guys have to say about the new look, the new design. But for me, for our company, you know, I'm not opposed. You know what? There's going to come a time when we're going to be buying brand new trucks again. There is going to be coming a time when we will be buying brand new trucks again. So when that time comes, I will make sure to, you know, I'll keep you guys in the loop. But if I'm looking at a 990, I will tell you this much. I'll be comparing it with a International. Now, if I'm looking at a 589, it's probably a little different story. But if I'm comparing a 990, or if I'm looking at a 990, looking to buy a 990 or an 880, I'm going to be looking at Western Star. I'm going to be looking at some of the other manufacturers. So we'll see how big these changes actually are. Thank you guys again. Peace out.